What is a revolution? Industrial Revolution, French Revolution, American Revolution. We have heard about these revolutions as a part of the modern history. A revolution, as for Karl Marx, is associated with a sea change in the way in which you live earlier and the way in which you live after the revolution. So after the American Revolution, the people used to live in a different political order. The political order made on the basis of all men are equal. Similarly, after French Revolution, the principles of liberty, equality and fraternity became the foundation stone on which the political and the societal order was set up. Revolutions bringing a sea change in the way in which we live. But what was the conception of a revolution back in ancient Greece for philosophers like Aristotle? Do they also adhere to the similar conception of revolution? Or was the conception of revolution for them a little different from the modern conception of revolution? If I talk about Aristotle, for Aristotle, any political change is a part of the revolution. He has defined revolution in a very broad term. Change in the set of rulers is revolution for him. The democracy becoming less democratic or the monarchy becoming less of monarchic in orientation, in nature, is a revolution for him. Any kind of political transformation is a revolution for him. Any slight change in the political order for him can be considered as a revolution. He is not talking about a sea change or the change in the societal order as a whole, the change in the entire fabric of the society as a whole. He is talking about certain changes in the political order and he is constituting them as revolution. He has studied 158 constitutions of his time. And after that he says, there are certain causes of revolution. He gives the remedies for revolution also. But the conception of revolution, although in a very broad terms he defined revolution, but a very small slight change for him is a revolution. This conception of revolution is very different from the conception of revolution which we understand today. The question which we should ask ourselves is his conception of revolution correct, or the conception of revolution which we now understand is a better conception of revolution? Aristotle's theory of revolution, it was one of the most authoritative works on revolution until the coming of Karl Marx. His works on revolution, they were especially useful in understanding what are the issues with the forms of different kinds of governments prevalent during that time, and even they are relevant for our times also. The theory of revolution by Aristotle and the conception of a revolution, but the conception was very different. This difference in the conception is something which you should think about, that whether his conception is relevant in our times or not, or the conception of revolution which has come up after the conception of revolution given by Karl Marx, this is more relevant for us. Karl Marx will talk about the revolution being the locomotives of history. He'll say revolution is a locomotive of history. It is on the basis of revolution that the entire history progresses. On the other hand side, Aristotle is saying even a slight change in the political order is a revolution, and he will go to the extent of trying to prohibit that thing. He studies 158 constitutions in order to understand the causes of revolution, and he wants to address those causes because for him political stability is extremely important. Karl Marx will say, revolutions are the basis in which the history moves forward. What does this tell us about the conception of revolution for both of them, and what does this tell us about both of them as political thinkers? This is something which I would like you to think upon, and I'll meet you in the next video.